concert lights had barely dimmed when the members stepped backstage, their breathing heavy, sweat dripping down their temples. It was the middle of their world tour, and each city brought an ocean of screaming fans, bright lights, and a schedule that barely allowed them to breathe. Yet tonight, something felt different. Jimin had noticed it hours earlier during rehearsals. Jungkook's usual bright energy seemed muted. He moved through choreography perfectly. He always did. But there was something in the way his shoulders slouched when he thought no one was looking, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Jimin had learned to read Jungkook long ago. He could tell when the younger man was exhausted, upset, or trying to hide something. And tonight, there was no doubt in his mind. Jungkook wasn't feeling well. Back in the dressing room, the stylist moved in quickly, fixing hair and makeup. Jimin kept glancing at Jungkook in the mirror. His skin looked paler than usual under the bright bulbs, and there was a faint sheen of sweat on his forehead, even though the air conditioning was running cold. Jungkook caught Jimin's gaze and flashed him a small smile, as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm fine." But Jimin didn't believe it for a second. "Did you eat?" Jimin asked casually as he sat beside him. Jungkook hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I had something earlier." "What was it?" "It's coffee." Jimin's eyes narrowed. "That's not food." Jungkook laughed weakly, but the sound was thinner than usual. "Hyung, I'm fine. Don't fuss." But Jimin did fuss. He fussed because he cared. He fussed because over the years, he had seen Jungkook push himself past every limit, refusing to admit weakness, always trying to live up to his own impossibly high standards. It was one of the things that made him great, but also one of the things that scared Jimin the most. The show went on. The fans screamed, the music pounded through the arena, and Jungkook performed flawlessly, at least to the untrained eye. But Jimin noticed a slight delay in his steps during the third song. He noticed how Jungkook's breath hitched during the high notes, how his usual powerful jumps were just a little smaller. By the time the encore ended, Jungkook's voice was hoarse, and his body seemed heavier somehow, as if even walking off stage took extra effort. As soon as they reached the hallway leading to the green room, Jungkook quietly excused himself to the hotel instead of joining the others for the post-show debrief. That's when Jimin knew it wasn't just tiredness. Later that night, after the noise of the team faded and most of the members had gone out for a late meal, Jimin found himself standing in front of Jungkook's hotel room door, a takeout bag in his hand. He knocked softly. There was a pause, then the sound of shuffling feet before the door cracked open. Jungkook stood there in a hoodie, hair slightly messy, his eyes heavy-lidded. "Hyung!" His voice was raspy. "You didn't eat," Jimin said simply, holding up the bag. "So I brought something." Jungkook opened the door wider, letting him in. The room was dim, the curtains drawn. A half-empty water bottle sat on the nightstand, and Jungkook's phone was face down beside it. He had clearly been lying in bed. "You didn't have to," Jungkook started, but Jimin cut him off. "Sit." He unpacked the food onto the small table by the window, warm soup, rice, and a few side dishes. The steam rose into the air, carrying a comforting scent. Jungkook sat across from him, picking up his spoon hesitantly. "Thanks, Hyung." They ate quietly at first, the sound of clinking spoons filling the room. Jimin watched carefully, noting how slowly Jungkook moved, as if even lifting the spoon took effort. He was about to say something when Jungkook set his spoon down and leaned back in his chair. "I didn't want to tell anyone," Jungkook admitted softly. "I didn't want them to worry. We still have 3 shows this week." Jimin shook his head. "You think hiding it will help? You'll just make yourself worse." Jungkook smiled faintly. "You sound like my mom." "Good," Jimin said, his tone firm. "Someone has to." The rest of the night passed in quiet companionship. After eating, Jimin cleaned up the table and made sure Jungkook drank enough water. He even went downstairs to the hotel cafe to get some honey tea. When he returned, Jungkook was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone with a tired expression. "Tea," Jimin said, setting the cup on the nightstand. Jungkook accepted it without argument. He took a sip, then set it down and looked at Jimin. "Why are you doing all this?" Jimin hesitated for a moment before answering. "Because you're not just a teammate, Jungkook. You're my brother. And if you're sick, I can't be at peace." The younger man didn't reply right away. He just stared at Jimin for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he gave a small, almost shy smile. Thanks, Hyung. When Jungkook finally drifted off to sleep, Jimin stayed a little longer, sitting on the couch by the window. He didn't scroll through his phone or turn on the TV. He just sat there, listening to the steady sound of Jungkook's breathing. The city lights outside flickered against the glass, but in that quiet room, it felt like the world had shrunk down to just the two of them. Jimin knew tomorrow would be another long day, with cameras and rehearsals and expectations pressing in from all sides. But for now, none of that mattered. For now, the only thing that mattered was that Jungkook wasn't alone. The next morning, Jimin woke up earlier than usual. He wasn't in his own room. He had fallen asleep on the couch in Jungkook's suite sometime after midnight. The curtains were still closed, but a faint line of daylight slipped through the edges, hinting at the city slowly waking up outside. Jungkook was still asleep, his breathing steady, face half buried in the pillow. The soft rise and fall of his chest reassured Jimin that at least he was resting properly now. Quietly, Jimin stood and stretched his aching back. He tiptoed to the bathroom to wash up, then called room service for a light breakfast, porridge, fruit, and ginger tea. When the food arrived, Jungkook stirred at the sound of the door. His voice was still hoarse when he murmured, "Hyun, you're still here?" Jimin placed the tray on the table. "Of course I'm still here. Who else is going to make sure you eat real food?" Jungkook let out a tired chuckle and slowly sat up. His hair was messy, and he looked younger somehow, less like the superstar everyone saw on stage, and more like the boy Jimin had met years ago in the practice room. They ate together again, quietly at first, until Jungkook said, "You should go out and enjoy the day, Hyung. Don't waste your time babysitting me." Jimin shook his head. "It's not wasting time. Besides, what would I do out there? Drink coffee and scroll my phone alone? No thanks." There was a pause, and Jungkook looked down at his bowl. "It's just, I don't like people seeing me weak." Jimin's expression softened. "Jungkook, being sick doesn't make you weak. You've been carrying so much. It's okay to let someone else take care of you for once." The words hung in the air. Jungkook didn't reply immediately, but Jimin could see something shifting in his eyes, like a small wall breaking down. By late afternoon, Jungkook was feeling a little better. They decided to watch a movie together in the room. Jimin made a habit of pausing the film every so often to check if Jungkook had taken his medicine and drank water. It was half annoying for Jungkook, but deep down he didn't mind. There was comfort in knowing someone cared enough to be persistent. That evening, the other members returned from a quick sightseeing trip. Taeyong dropped by to check on Jungkook, but when he saw Jimin still there, he smiled knowingly. "Of course, Jimin Hyung is here. You're like his personal nurse." Jungkook rolled his eyes, but Jimin just shrugged. Someone has to make sure he doesn't live off coffee and stubbornness. The next day was rehearsal day, and the management had given Jungkook the option to skip or do minimal practice. He insisted on coming, but Jimin stayed close to him the entire time, subtly adjusting his position in choreo so Jungkook didn't have to push himself too hard, taking over the high notes during run-throughs, and making sure he had water in between songs. The staff noticed. Some fan site photographers noticed too, capturing small moments, Jimin standing protectively beside Jungkook, Jimin adjusting Jungkook's mic cable, Jimin placing a hand on his back as they walked off stage. That night, during the actual concert, Jungkook's energy was back, though not at full strength. But ARMY saw something else on stage that evening. They saw the way Jimin glanced over at Jungkook during songs, the way he subtly matched his movements to make sure the younger man didn't overexert himself, the way his smile seemed softer whenever their eyes met. Halfway through the show, during a quiet men segment, Jungkook unexpectedly took the mic. "I just want to say sometimes we all have tough days, even during times like this when we should be our happiest. And on those days, I'm really grateful to have people around me who care. Especially," he glanced at Jimin, "especially this Hyung, who's been taking care of me even when I didn't ask him to." The crowd erupted into cheers and screams. Jimin's ears turned pink, but he laughed and patted Jungkook's shoulder. "Yeah, don't make me cry in front of everyone." After the show, clips of the moment spread online. Fans paired it with all the behind-the-scenes photos and videos from the past few days. The hashtags #ProtectiveJimin and #GetWellSoonJungkook trended worldwide. One fan tweet summed up the sentiment perfectly. Jimin didn't just take care of Jungkook, he made sure he never felt alone, even for a second. That's real love. Back at the hotel, when the noise of the day had faded, Jungkook sat on the couch with a cup of tea in his hands. Jimin was packing his bag, ready to return to his own room for the night. Hyung, Jungkook said suddenly. Jimin looked up. Thank you. For staying. For everything. His voice was quiet, but there was weight behind the words. Jimin smiled. You'd do the same for me. Jungkook didn't argue. He just nodded. And for a long moment, they sat in comfortable silence. The kind that only comes when two people have been through enough together to know that words aren't always necessary. And somewhere out there, ARMY was still talking about what they had seen. Not the big stages or the flashing lights, but the quiet, unspoken bond between two brothers who had each other's backs no matter what.